Hi LEGO fans, and a happy new year! With a new year comes new Harry Potter LEGO and something we've not seen before, unlike the upcoming 5th regurgitation of the violently purple Night Bus. Today I'm going to be unboxing, speed building and reviewing set number 76453 Malfoy Manor from LEGO Harry Potter! As well as exploring Malfoy Manor, we'll be getting up close and personal with the minifigures and comparing each to its on-screen character from the movie. We'll also be reenacting the daring escape scene from Deathly Hallows Part 1. Spoiler alert, this is not going to end well for somebody. Apart from being the location of the heinous murder of Dobby the Free Elf, this is the first time we've seen Malfoy Manor recreated in an official LEGO set and not a mock. This 1,601 piece set retails for 130 Great British Pounds, 150 Euros, or 150 of Uncle Sam's greenbacks. The pretty impressive part count includes 9 minifigures, including Harry Potter before and after Hermione's stinging jinx, Narcissa Malfoy in only her second outing as a LEGO minifigure, Hermione Jean Granger ready for a girl-to-girl chat with Bellatrix, Madame Lestrange herself, Draco Malfoy in Issey Miyake-inspired dark clothing, his father, Lucius Malfoy, who shall hear about this, Luna Lovegood in adorable lilac dungarees, he who shall not be named, and Dobby living out his final moments in the saga. We also have Voldemort's Snake Nagini, but this set does lack other characters shown in scenes at Malfoy Manor. These include Charity Burbage, aka Dinner, and the ever slippery Pious Thickness. This set, for all of its positives, does lack some of the darker themes, but don't worry, I got you covered. As well as Malfoy Manor itself, the set does recreate the impressive gates. The manor's exterior does look very impressive, but it's not quite at a scale that many adult fans wanted to see. Flipping over to the back of the box, you can check out the interior, which is definitely more focused on play than display. I'm particularly excited by the interactive chandelier, which we'll be using to brain Bellatrix later in the video. Other interior features include the Malfoy's large dining table, which seems to be missing Charity Burbage. There are not one but 2 staircases leading down to the cellar dungeon, and a small kitchen for preparing exotic meals. I'm pleased to see some of the more fleeting details like the golden snitch, and the sword of Gryffindor, which is not going to please Bellatrix. From the outside it's a good looking product and has certainly sold well, but let's open up this bad boy and see what goodness lies within. Here's everything you get inside the box. We've got a very unlucky 13 numbered bags of LEGO, a brown paper envelope containing the instructions and sticker sheet, and slightly concerningly, a single piece which was loose in the box and definitely shouldn't be. I'm going to go ahead and build the 76453 Malfoy Manor, and today this is going to be a 3-minute speed build. And here is the completed 76453 Malfoy Manor from LEGO Harry Potter. Build time today was just over 4 hours and incorporated enough variety to keep things interesting. We get our first look at the dark and foreboding Malfoy Manor in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. That's the boring one where they spend most of it camping, and then we have this weird scene with Harry and Hermione which kills the movie dead, but I digress. Exterior scenes were filmed at Hardwick Hall in Derbyshire and then heavily modified with the help of some CGI effects. The LEGO version has been scaled down quite a bit and is missing some of the wings and turrets. We're also missing most of the extensively manicured gardens. Thankfully we do have the Malfoy's impressive and undoubtedly expensive gates. This is where Ron, Harry and Hermione are taken when their snatchers quite literally snatch them in the Forest of Dean. Unfortunately this set lacks not only Ron, but also those fantastic snatchers. The gates themselves have just the right amount of detail. Each is flanked by a large stone column, and then on top we have these fantastic gargoyles, which bear more than a passing resemblance to flying monkeys. Although we lack the enormous hedges flanking the gates, LEGO has included some foliage at the base and also a couple of small trees. The gates are hinged, allowing guests and even prisoners to approach the manor house. The Malfoy family's large Wiltshire manor house appears as it looked in the spring of 1998, when Voldemort took it over as his headquarters during the Second Wizarding War. The LEGO version has 4 floors which we'll explore very soon. On the ground floor, a large set of double doors provide access to the manor. These are illuminated by trans bright green lanterns. To the left of the door we find a nook containing an ostentatious looking bust. Here we find more dark green foliage, and the statue complete with long flowing hair and a magic wand. I really like the architectural attention to detail. In the same place on the opposite side, we find a decorative serpentine themed fountain. The snake elements are a really nice touch given the Malfoy family's affiliation to Slytherin House. The water feature is finished off with some really nice trans blue elements. The extravagant features really help to bring out the opulence of Malfoy Manor. All this talk of decorative features reminds me of something I forgot to show you. Check out this delightful pair of peacock statues. The 2 peacocks are identical and made of a small number of LEGO elements. My favourite is the white foliage element used to make the tail. These stand on a simple grey base complete with some more of that dark green foliage. The next floor incorporates an impressive balcony, but I can't see a way to get out onto it. Well, I guess when you're a wizard you can just disapparate or something. One detail I really do like are the skeleton legs used to support the railings. I'm not such a big fan of the way the floor plates sit on the columns below. As you can see, these plates don't quite align properly. One thing Malfoy Manor has no shortage of is windows. Above the windows on this level we find more of those decorative snakes. Also decorating the Malfoy's family home is the Malfoy's family crest. LEGO has definitely used an interesting colour scheme for the stonework on the outside of the manor. It's very similar to Hardwick Hall on which Malfoy Manor was based. Towards the top of the building, there are even more architectural features. These decorative features, for example, make clever use of LEGO minifigure handcuffs. At roof level we find more railings supported by skeleton legs, and a pair of chimneys for each wing of the house. Although Malfoy Manor in the movies has multiple turrets, this LEGO version has just 3. I guess the central feature is more of a pitched roof than a turret. You could say the same about these towers, which are very steep and foreboding. Now of course you didn't click on this video to get an architecture lesson. I know you're all waiting to see Dobby get murdered. Inside Malfoy Manor is where all of the action and fun happens. Well, maybe not fun if you're Hermione, and definitely not fun if you're the Dobster. The layout is definitely designed for practicality and not movie accuracy. For example, you'll notice the Malfoy's dining room is on the first floor. I'm pretty sure in a manor house like this it would be on the ground floor. Okay, ignore past Jeremy who clearly didn't pay attention. Snape clearly climbs the stairs before arriving at the meeting with Voldemort and all of the Death Eaters. You would expect the front doors to open up into a grand entranceway. Instead these open up into the basement, which has become a makeshift jail. Ensuring the Malfoy's guests can check out anytime they like but never leave, there are a pair of wizard-proof barred doors. The Malfoys aren't complete monsters and have at least provided drinking water for their guests. I like the attention to detail with the drips, and even the trans-blue puddle on the floor. Uninvited guests we find in the cellar include this nugget acromantula who we shall refer to as Lucas. Completing this side of the basement we have a lantern for Ron to control with his deluminator, and a small amount of stickered detail for the masonry which seems to need some repair. The other side looks a lot more welcoming and houses a small kitchen. Here we find a small table and chair which may well have been used by a servant. I'm guessing before the second book this is where Dobby used to cook. Hanging in the rafters we find a pearl gold goblet and skillet, and then on the wall some stickered detail picks out some wizarding herbs. As kitchens go, this one is absolutely tiny. Cooking is all done over fire because wizards haven't invented microwaves, and there's a pair of daggers on either side which might come in useful later. On the top we find a cauldron, a skillet, and because the Malfoys are super fancy, a lobster. This is a relatively uncommon element and appears in only 6 other sets. On the back wall of the kitchen is some more stickered detail showing a shelf and varied spices and foodstuffs enjoyed by wizards. Leading up to the Malfoys' fancy dining room, or conversely down to the cellar dungeon, we find a set of dark green stairs. Whether these are the stairs at the top of which Dobby tells Harry and Ron to meet him in 10 seconds, we'll never know. The pair of stairs are mounted on turntables and can be positioned at a number of different angles. These lead up to a dining table at which Voldemort likes to host meetings. I heard they like to drink tequila after these meetings, but not just any tequila, they drink Expecto Patron. The table comes with 6 sand green chairs which seat the minifigures perfectly. They even have a spare chair for Charity Burbage. The chairs are simply made but perfect for seating minifigures. The table on the other hand looks quite grand with decorative features. I really like the scroll pieces, one of which escaped into the box. Removing the chair and the tables reveals a very fancy floor design. This was somewhat fiddly to build, but the dark mark floor patterning is absolutely badass. Also in the grand dining room we find a pair of portraits and an elaborate fireplace. The fireplace is nicely detailed and incorporates the Malfoy family crest. The design of the crest seems to be canon, but it is missing its motto, Sanctimonia Vincit Semper. If your Latin's as bad as mine, that means purity will always conquer. The portraits are stickered parts but do seem to align with what we saw in Deathly Hallows Part 1. It's tricky to see them in the darkness of Malfoy Manor, but I was able to find this image online and it does fairly accurately match this portrait. I had less luck identifying this portrait, but I'm sure these are members of the Malfoy family. Hanging between the portraits we find a very fancy chandelier with an action feature. We'll come back to chandelier shenanigans a little later. The remaining rooms are very small but do include some interesting details. This first room is a bedroom and may well belong to Draco Malfoy. Ever the Slytherin fanboy, his bed is adorned with the Serpent of Slytherin. The only other feature is a candle which provides some light so he can style his hair using a Dracomb. Across the other side of the hallway, we learn that even the Malfoys have to go poop. When Draco has to Drago, he sits on the porcelain throne. We even have a perfect Lego toilet roll and a tiny sink for the Malfoy to wash blood off their hands. Each one of these tiny rooms has additional windows on either side, giving this set a very impressive window count. Moving up to the next floor, we get a good look at Draco's impressive organ. The scale is rather small with only a single octave for the keyboard, but there are a couple of studs where you can stand a minifigure to play the organ. The final room, unless you include the attics, seems to be Mr. Malfoy's study. Here we have a rather fancy black chair and a candelabra complete with 2 candles. As I mentioned before, there is some attic space, but not really enough to do anything useful with. Despite that, I am pleased to see that LEGO included the customary bat on the other side. The interior of Malfoy Manor is pretty good and provides a great stage for storytelling. Of course, a stage is but a stage without actors. So how did we all get into this predicament? After being snatched by the Snatchers in the Forest of Dean, the Snatchers decide to take Harry, Ron and Hermione to Malfoy Manor. Let's just say Bellatrix was very interested to see Vernon Dudley's scar. Pressure was put on Draco to identify the boy wizard, but he was pretty non-committal. Bellatrix starts to interrogate the Snatchers to find out what happened to Harry's face. It was then she noticed that one of the Snatchers had the sword of Gryffindor, and the whole dynamic in the room changed. "Sissy, put the boys in the cellar! I'm going to have a conversation with this one, girl to girl!" After Ron and Harry are thrown into the cellar by Wormtail, Xenophilius Lovegood's sweet Luna emerges from the darkness, followed by Griphook and Mr. Ollivander. In the meantime, Bellatrix sets about torturing Hermione upstairs. Harry, knowing he needs to take action, pulls out a 2-way mirror fragment. A curious thing to keep in your sock. On the other side, he talks to Aberforth Dumbledore, who bought the remainder of the mirror from Mundungus Fletcher. Help us! Having failed to get the answers she needed from Hermione, Bellatrix sends Wormtail to the basement to fetch Griphook. Dobby, what are you doing here? Dobby's come to rescue Harry Potter, of course. Dobby will always be there for Harry Potter. Are you saying you can apparate in and out of this room? Could you take us with you? Of course, sir. I'm an elf. Works for me. Right, Dobby, I want you to take Luna and Mr. Ollivander, Shell Cottage on the outskirts of Timworth. Trust me. Whenever you're ready, sir. Sir? I like her very much. Meet me at the top of the stairs in 10 seconds. At that point, Wormtail comes down the stairs and unlocks the gate just before a flash of light comes from behind him. Oh. Who gets his wand? As Harry and Ron sneak up the stairs, they overhear Bellatrix. Who got into my vault? Who stole it? Who stole it? At this point we find out Hermione was screaming because Bellatrix carved mudblood into her left arm with a dagger. There is no place safer than Gringotts. Liar! Completely enraged, Bellatrix slashes Griphook across the face with the same dagger. Consider yourself lucky, Goblin. The same won't be said for this one. Like hell. Expelliarmus! Harry grabs Bellatrix's wand and stuns Lucius. Stupefy! Narcissa and Draco step forward and start dueling with Harry and Ron. Stop! Drop your wands! Bellatrix is holding that same dagger to Hermione's throat. I said drop them! Pick them up, Draco, now! At that precise moment, the stinging jinx which Hermione hit Harry with wears off. Well, 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 look what we have here. It's Harry Potter. He's all bright, shiny and new again, just in time for the Dark Lord. Call him. Call him? Lucius reveals a tattoo on his forearm that a Lego minifigure doesn't have, but before he touches it, they're all distracted by a squeaking noise. Dobby, in a scene reminiscent of Only Fools and Horses, that's one for the British viewers, is unscrewing the chandelier. Ah! In a panic, Hermione breaks free, and Harry wrestles a wand from Draco's hands. He stuns Lucius again so he can't summon the Dark Lord. Stupefy! Stupid elf! You could have killed me! Dobby never meant to kill! Dobby only meant to maim or seriously injure. Narcissa makes a brave attempt to jinx the elf, but Dobby snaps his fingers and disarms Narcissa. How dare you take a witch's wand? How dare you defy your masters? Dobby is a free elf, and Dobby has come to save Harry Potter and his friends. Harry, Hermione, Griphook and Ron join hands with Dobby and begin to disapparate. Bellatrix, incensed, throws her dagger into the disapparating crowd and looks intently as it flies away. Of course, there's a good reason why Dobby's grave can be found at Freshwater West Beach in Pembrokeshire, Wales. It's not easy to get to, but it is the most beautiful place imaginable. Such a beautiful place to be with friends. Now, as well as the magnificent selection of minifigures which came in this set, I do want to recognise the supporting characters which LEGO omitted but probably shouldn't have. Let's hear it for Mr. Ollivander, Ronald Bilious Weasley, Peter Pettigrew, aka Wormtail, and of course that backstabbing goblin, Griphook. I see you've brought something for show and tell, Griphook. The Sword of Gryffindor is famous for turning up when Gryffindors are in times of need. Harry used it to kill the basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets, and the sword appeared to Harry again, years later, in the bottom of a frozen pond. It was confiscated from Ron by the Snatchers, and that's when all hell broke loose. The LEGO version is very nicely detailed, including rubies set into the hilt of the sword. The name of Godric Gryffindor on the blade, however, is replaced by copyright 2019, the LEGO Group. I do happen to have a full-size version of the sword, but this one is a fake, much like the one in Bellatrix's vault. It's a nice inclusion in the set and very necessary given that this is why Bellatrix was torturing Hermione. Also confiscated by the Snatchers was the Golden Snitch, which Harry caught, or more accurately nearly swallowed, in his first competitive game of Quidditch. The Golden Snitch in its original form was introduced in 1269. Back then, it wasn't a golden ball, but a magical bird called a Golden Snidget. Barbarous Bragg offered a reward of 150 galleons to the player who caught the Snidget, and the rest, as they say, is history. Harry's snitch had a secret as he found out when he touched it to his lips. I open at the close. That's a story for another video. Another appropriate plastic prop included in this set includes Voldemort's snake, Nagini. Nagini, who was killed by Neville Longbottom on the 2nd of May 1998, was actually a Maledictus cursed to transform into a snake. We see the original human-like form of Nagini hanging out with Credence Barebones in Fantastic Beasts. Nagini finally became a Horcrux when Voldemort killed Bertha Jorkins in 1994. The LEGO version is good, but could use some paint to make those eyes pop. The last prop I want to talk about is Bellatrix's dagger. I don't know whether the inclusion of knives in the kitchen was deliberate, but they certainly come in useful for retelling the story. Bellatrix's actual dagger looks a little bit more like this. This is what Bellatrix used to carve the word mudblood into Hermione's arm, and it was also used, probably unintentionally, to kill Dobby. It's very likely the intended victim was Harry himself. The handle is suitably decorated on both sides with a skull design, and the blade is covered in intricate decoration. The same can't be said for the LEGO version. So with the story told and the props all covered off, I think it's time to take a closer look at these minifigures. First up we have the deliciously dark Bellatrix Lestrange. This is not the first LEGO recreation, with Bellatrix appearing as 7 minifigures and a statuette. In what will become a common theme, you'll notice LEGO has used movable legs as opposed to a skirt. I believe this is intentional so that all of the minifigures can sit around the table. The legs are a common part and just happen to match the costume. The torso is a new part and does a good job of recreating Bellatrix's costume as seen in the movie. The metallic printing on black really pops. The printing around the back is a little less flashy, but does pick out all of the details in what I can only describe as a corset. The hair is an absolutely stunning element and appears on all 7 of the Bellatrix minifigures, plus a few others. Peeking out from beyond the curls is a very serious looking Bellatrix. In the blink of an eye, that expression can turn into a maniacal smile. As things stand, this facial expression is currently new and exclusive to the set. We don't get a very close look at Bella when she's offering to kill Harry Potter, but we see her costume a lot more clearly in the later scenes of the movie. I think LEGO did a good job here, but I would like to have seen a skirt piece as an alternate option to the legs. Next up we have Dobby the Free Elf, who is a completely new minifigure for this set. Although the head is not a new mould, you will see a difference in the facial features. In this new version, you do get a sense that Dobby is quite nervous. Dobby's legs, also new for this set, are non-posable and dual moulded. The torso is also a new design, but I don't think this truly captures the dirty rags which Dobby wears. That printing continues around the back and the arms are left bare, which matches the character. It's not easy to capture the likeness of a house elf in LEGO form. I think LEGO have done a pretty good job here, but I'm sure you can understand my comments about the dirty rags. Have you ever noticed how Dobby's eyes are bright green in this movie, but by the time we get to the Deathly Hallows, they've turned to a darker blue-green? Our next minifigure is Draco Malfoy, who, just like a Russian doll, is full of himself. Yes, I'm sure his father will hear about that. Although this is a brand new version of Draco, all of the parts have been used before. The posable black legs are a stock element, and the printed torso is generic, having been used on many minifigures. When it comes to matching the costume in the movie, this is probably LEGO's worst effort. Draco wears all black, and as you can see here, the minifigure has a white shirt. The hair, whilst perfect for the Malfoy boy, is a common element, and the facial expression has been widely used. As is too often the case, the printing on the face is not very good. Notice all of the colour bleed. Clearly from the alternate expression, Draco is not appreciative of the criticism. As an older version of the Malfoy boy, it's not a bad minifigure. I could go off on a tangent and tell you about his future wife, but that's a story for another video. Moving on from Draco, we have his arch enemy. It's the boy what gone done lived, Harry James Potter. Unlike Draco, his costume is very close to what we see in the movie. We've got sand blue posable legs for Harry's jeans, a brand new printed torso with brown jacket and blue shirt layered over a red t-shirt, and we even have dirt marks picked up during the scuffle with the Snatchers in the forest. We've seen that hair many times before, but the facial print is new and exclusive. It shows Harry wearing almost a smile, but that facial expression also speaks to suspicion and feeling threatened. The alternate expression, other than having an insane amount of colour bleed, is absolutely fantastic. Comparing it to Harry in the movie, this is what you end up looking like if you get hit in the face by one of Hermione's stinging jinxes. You might also end up looking like this if you don't leave it long enough after Hermione's used the bathroom. The custom printed face, which is likely to make this minifigure forever exclusive to the set, is definitely one of the standout minifigures. Next we have the jumped up mudblood and intolerable know-it-all, Hermione Jean Granger. Her costume also reflects what she was wearing when they were captured in the woods, and of course when she was tortured in Malfoy Manor. Anybody else think this would be a really good tattoo? Hermione is also rocking a pair of jeans in sand blue, but then we have a new and exclusive printed torso, which perfectly recreates her costume. LEGO has even managed to nail the woolen neck on her sweater. By sweater, I do of course mean hooded sweater. The facial expression, whilst not new, is delightfully done and has good resemblance to the character. As I've said before, the alternate badass expression is definitely my favourite. The hair is another familiar element, but is perfect for the minifigure. I believe we're up to about 44 Hermione minifigures by now, but this one is definitely a good one. From that great version of Hermione, we come down to earth with a bit of a bump with this new Voldemort minifigure. I mean, when did Voldy start wearing strides? I suppose it allows him to sit at the table, but I do prefer the skirt element. The printed torso is new and does at least capture the upper half of Voldemort's robes. Ignoring the fact that Voldemort isn't wearing trousers, the likeness to the costume worn by the Dark Lord in the movie is pretty good. There is a little more printing around the back, but it's not exactly jaw-dropping. The printed face, albeit somewhat smudged, is new. The irony that Voldemort, who has no nose, is one of the only LEGO minifigures with a nose is not lost on me. Out of all the minifigures in this set, this one is probably my least favourite and least useful for storytelling. Next we have Man of the Manor, Lucius Malfoy. Lucius is played by the very talented Jason Isaacs, and I love the way he captures the haggard and terrified Lucius Malfoy in this movie. Sadly, we have plain unprinted black legs, but the new torso print is really nicely done and incorporates some metallic highlights. I always find this hair just a little bit too yellow, but it does a reasonable job of capturing Lucius's luscious locks. The very serious facial expression is not modelled exclusively on Lucius. That becomes obvious when we see the uncharacteristic smile on the other side. Although the face may be generic, the costume definitely isn't. LEGO has done a really good job of recreating the costume Lucius was wearing during the meeting with Voldemort. Another great example of LEGO paying attention to the costume can be found right here. This is of course Luna Lovegood, who seems not to need to blink so often as other people. My one criticism would be that Luna's costume is a little bit too bright. But when it comes down to capturing the detail of those dungarees, LEGO nailed it. The legs are plain unprinted medium lavender, but then we have a delightfully exclusive printed torso. That printed detail continues around the back, and angled to the light you can see gold metallics on the straps. The hair, swirled into a loose ponytail, is perfect for Luna. I do however worry about Nargles getting in through the hole in the back of her head. The hair, which sits at this unusual angle, is new to this minifigure in the bright light yellow colour. The facial expression is used widely and is not exclusive to Luna. The alternate expression is definitely not what we expect to see from the unflappable Luna. Despite Neville declaring undying love for Luna in the final movie, Loony Luna actually ends up marrying Rolf Scamander, the grandson of Newt Scamander. Reminding us of the immense talent we've lost from the cast and crew of Harry Potter, our final minifigure is Narcissa Malfoy. Again, we have boring black legs where we should really have a skirt piece. Making up for that somewhat is a beautifully printed torso. It's quite difficult to get a clear shot, but this does seem to match the costume she was wearing early in the movie. That intricate printed detail continues around the back, but I would have liked to have seen some arm printing. The torso is exclusive to the minifigure, and the minifigure is exclusive to the set. The head print is used quite widely, but the hair with printed highlights is exclusive to Narcissa, who appears for only the second time in minifigure form. The generic facial print, in my opinion, is a little bit too smiley for Narcissa. I do prefer the alternate angry version, which looks very familiar. Narcissa was brilliantly played by Helen McCrory, who died in 2023, tragically aged just 52. In summary, this is a good, but not perfect lineup of minifigures. There are some very obvious omissions here. It's a good selection to complement Malfoy Manor, but definitely not as comprehensive as I would have liked. So that was set number 76453, Malfoy Manor from LEGO Harry Potter. It's a good looking set and will stand out amongst any Harry Potter display. I like that this is completely new, and LEGO has done a good job of recreating the key features from inside the manor. Details like the portraits and the barred doors in the cellar are really nice touches. I also really appreciate the chandelier with the action feature. I hope I've done it justice in this comprehensive review, and that you enjoyed the little skit recreating the escape scene from the movie. Thanks a million for checking out the video, and I'll be back very soon with some more Harry Potter magic. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time, LEGO fans!